Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before we start our class, let us recite Ummul Kitab Al-Fatiha. Alright, today I'm gonna explain a little bit on the character of the curriculum. This is for week 2 and week 3. Right, so before we go further, today I'm going to explain about the curriculum terms and its meaning, because this actually will help you to define how the meanings and the terms related to the philosophy of education. And for informations, we have various definitions of the curriculum. When the definitions are various, the meaning themselves are so wide and diverse to the extent that you cannot actually say, let's say that you believe this particular definitions of curriculum is the best definitions. You cannot say that, alright, because it involves lots of context and it involves lots of worldviews and perspective. Alright, and at the same time, by knowing the philosophical foundations of curriculum, the worldview of the curriculum, how does it get the meanings from, why and how, it will actually help you in making a better decisions, in terms of to decide what kind of curriculum that you should use, what kind of a planning, alright, to the extent that, let's say that for example, when you plan the curriculum, it will help the user, the students, to see the advantage of implementing this kind of curriculum, right? At the same time, to realize what are the achievable goals that the curriculum that you choose should be able to achieve. So again, based on the meaning of the curriculum, these are the 3 questions that you should focus on, that you should have in your mind when you decide a particular meaning or definitions of the curriculum. Alright, the first thing is, what does the term mean to you? Alright, the second one is, why do you choose the particular term or meaning over other terms? Because like what I said before, we have so many meanings for the word curriculum itself. Alright, so many meanings and so many definitions. And questions number 3, how do you conduct the classroom based on the particular meaning of the curriculum that you choose? The choice that you make actually will determine how you're going to approach your classroom. Alright, I also want you to actually find the terms of the enacted curriculum versus the experienced curriculum. What does these 2 terms, let me make the correction. What do these terms actually mean? And could you give some examples? Could you give examples of the enacted curriculum versus the experienced curriculums? And one more thing, I would like to introduce the hidden curriculum. Alright, I like this term very much, but I'm not going to explain now. I would like to find the meanings of these 3 things, these 3 words. Not 3 words. The terms, the enacted curriculum versus the experienced curriculum, and the hidden curriculum. And again, curriculum is a loose term. It is based on the context. It is based on the perspective, worldviews of people who are using it, who are creating the curriculum. And the curriculum itself should have a desirable ends. The desirable ends is actually a specific objective. Right? specific objectives. Alright, let's say for example the curriculum for army. What is the aim for the army? Maybe to have a specific shooting skills, specific killing people, how to kill people, or maybe a war strategy, for example, and maybe in terms of having a good endurance training, they can run, for example, army should be able to run 2 hours without stopping, and it should reach maybe 20 kilometers, for example. This is the curriculum for an army. So there is a specific objective for that. Okay, let's say. And what about the curriculum for Tahfiz people? Do you have specific objective for Tahfiz people? Now, I would like you to choose a curriculum for, let's say, curriculum for a master student. Do you actually know what is the curriculum for master student? Do you know what is the specific objective that you're going to achieve by the end of when you graduate and having a master in curriculum and instruction, for example? And that's my question. That goes back to my question. Does the ends must be specified specifically? What happens if it is not specific? Okay, these are the questions that I would like you to think of. And remember, I mentioned that curriculum can have a various perspective depending upon those who understand, those who implement, or those who involve directly or indirectly. Because of this, usually we will face lack of agreement in terms of having definitions for curriculum. Okay, and this actually can result in confusion and frustrations. For example, if you look into the implementation of the English language for science subjects, that happens few years back for our mainstream students at schools. Parents, some of them agree, some of them disagree. This is because of the lack of perspective or lack of misunderstanding. Even those who understand about this particular curriculum implementation, curriculum specific objective to implement English language as a communication tools for science subject. Some parents like it, some parents don't like it. They believe the science subject should be taught in Bahasa Ibunda, Bahasa Melayu. Okay, so because of this, parents' views sometimes can influence the way that how curriculums are being implemented at schools. Another thing that I would like to emphasize is parents' associations, for example, the PIBG, alright, or PTA, Parents Teacher Association, the business community that sometimes contribute money to the school developments, alright, or sometimes the political parties, or sometimes the religious group can actually express their collective views about how their kids should be learning at schools. Alright, and at the same time, they can as well questions in terms of specific values that the curriculum being implemented at school, either the curriculum can actually contribute to the good values for their kids at school. Even if you look into the Malaysian context of the curriculum implementation, okay, recently lots of people have been asking to the Ministry of Education in terms of does the curriculum that we have nowadays can actually lead to a sense of unity among the races. Okay, and this kind of question is valid. All right, and that actually will lead to another question: what social and perhaps political forces influence the curriculum development at school? Okay, right. And take another example. In terms of what happened in Singapore, for example, I told you in my previous class, when my kid was in the US, the schools there use Singaporean curriculum, mathematics curriculum. The fact that they are so good in maths to the extent that the American use their syllabus, their curriculum, shows some things about their society. Okay, so again, when it comes to curriculum implementations, the definitions of curriculum, the meaning, the perspective, how it is implemented, this is a field that actually has a diverse and multiple perspective. So in making decisions about curriculum, you have to bear in mind there is no single curriculum which everyone must agree. Okay, however, to implement it at school, you need to decide a curriculum that actually can explore and understand alternative by the shareholders of the school. Okay, and at the same time you have to remember that with the planned curriculum or the enacted curriculum or the experienced curriculum, alright, we have the planned curriculum, and then we have the enacted curriculum and the experienced curriculum. These are the three basic questions that you have to be able to answer. Alright, okay, the first one, I'm talking in terms of when you want to make decisions about curriculum. Alright, the first one is what knowledge is most worth. Okay, that's the first questions. Right, the second question is how should the curriculum be developed, and the last one is how should the curriculum be experienced. Alright, I believe this is not an easy question. This is a very complicated question, but the policymaker, the curriculum developer, they need to decide on this kind of questions to be able to create a good curriculum, at least achievable curriculum that can be implemented at school. Alright, okay, regardless of the diversity, multiple perspective for the meaning of curriculum, but still it has limits when it comes to the implementations of the curriculum. There are things that we have to consider, such as in terms of the state or country laws. For example, in Malaysia, if you want to implement curriculum that is friendly to LGBT, I don't think it will be openly accepted by a Muslim society, or perhaps some other communities from Chinese and from Indian community. I'm talking about the religious community. All right. Secondly, in terms of the administrative directives, you cannot just simply implement a curriculum. Let's say that you want to establish a school, and then you decide on this particular curriculum, but you need to get, even though the school belongs to you, you own the building, you own the chairs, the desks, everything inside the school, but still, before you implement any curriculum, you need to get permissions from the administrative directive, which is from the MOE, Ministry of Education of Malaysia. Alright, and then we need to have it has a limits in terms of financials, emergencies. Some of the things inside the curriculum cannot be implemented if you have a financial burden. Maybe to teach these particular subjects needs lots of money, so sometimes the school just leave it. Okay, dia tak buat pun, dia tak implement pun, sebab melibatkan kos yang besar. Alright, what else? Also look at into traditions. Contoh, let's say for example zaman dulu, perhaps boys and girls schools were not accepted by the community. Maybe a long time ago, during the 1920, before the Merdeka, before the independence, parents reluctantly to send their kids to school because they believe school was being controlled by the British, by the missionary, this kind of stuff. So it is tied to the traditions. Okay, that was my introduction. Now we go into a core business for this lecture, which is to define a curriculum. Okay, curriculum came from a Latin word. It means race course. Okay, so it has a Latin roots. The fact that it is a Latin roots actually simply has what they call it, implication in terms of the subjects being taught. Since curriculum is a Western word, okay, it comes from Western definitions, of course, and of course the schools at Western's world has a strong affiliation with Latin or Greek civilization. You understand it or not? Right? And if you look into the meanings of the definitions of curriculum, okay, it has been broadened in the 20th century to not just have a classic subjects that taken from the Greek civilization, but as well as having some other stuff. For example, like science and maths. Okay, it's not about grammar anymore. It's not about Latin's language anymore. And remember when I said it is race course, so it has a beginning. Okay, it has a starting point. Okay, and then a course that you are racing. Okay, because it's a race course, alright? You are racing. So in the middles of the course, there is some obstacles or hurdles, alright, and there is an end, okay, a goal that you want to finish the race. The same thing with curriculum, you understand? Okay, let's look at the definitions. Number one, okay, curriculum is such permanent subjects as grammar, reading, logic, rhetoric, maths, and only greatest books from the Western world. What do you think the implications of having this kind of definitions for the word curriculum? Okay, I want you to think for seconds. Right? Curriculum is such permanent subjects as grammar, reading, logic, rhetoric, maths, and only greatest book from the Western world. Okay, firstly, the one that I can think of right now is, well, the fact that the definition used the word permanent subject. So permanent subjects are grammar, reading, logic, rhetoric, maths. That can be questioned. It's questionable, right? And then if I want to scrutinize more by looking into the grammar, reading, logic, rhetoric, maths only, so at the end of the school day, at the end of the university level, for example, this is university level, alright? So basically we cannot actually provide workforce for the society if these are the subjects being taught there at the schools or at the universities. So can you see, when I scrutinize in terms of the definitions, I look into the aims, and how my third scrutiny is how you gonna implement this into a school that has a diverse students that come from Asia, that come from Africa, and of course they are not familiar when it comes to books from the Western world. My fourth scrutiny: what's going to happen in terms of assessment, since the students are not familiar with the books from the Western world? It can has lots of unfairness and injustice when it comes to the assessment matter. Okay, all right. So I will give you definitions. Actually, I have here 7 definitions. All right, we're going to discuss this definition. I would like you to scrutinize and give a critical comments on these definitions. Yeah. All right. The definitions number 2. Definitions 2 is curriculum is those subjects that are most useful for living in contemporary society. Right? That's definition 2. I would like you to think of the implications. Okay, the implications can be positive or negative. Alright, I want you to be critical in terms of this. Alright, let's look into the definitions. Next definition, which is definitions 3. I don't think I'm going to have like 7 definitions, maybe 3 or 4. Thinking of okay, since this is technology, age of technology, age of IT, curriculum is what the students get from working with computers. Alright, I'd like you to scrutinize in terms of that. Definitions 4. Definition number 4. Curriculum is the questioning of authority. Alright, So I'd like you to think of the implications and if it is being implemented to the daily schools. Alright. Okay, and my last questions for today's class is my burning questions. Okay. Actually, I don't want you to ask Mr. Google. Alright, it's too easy. This question is easy basically, but I would like you to answer this question. What is the holistic view of curriculum? I would like you to answer that, and I want you to give a strong justification. Please don't use Google, because I know when you use Google. Okay, we're gonna discuss this for our next class. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't come today because my mother-in-law is in the hospital right now. She needs urgent attention. She has few days left because she's in a stage 4. Please make dua for her. And again, I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry because I couldn't attend this class today. I'm so sorry. Okay, Assalamualaikum. We finish our class with Tasbih Kifara and Surah Wal Asr. Wal Asr.